Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our regularly scheduled council meeting on Tuesday, March 26th. It is 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Charlie Davidson,
Here.
George Glover,
Here.
Ben Salcetta,
Here.
Charles Swanky,
Here.
Terry Osborne,
Here.
Troy Hill,
Here.
Brandy Bailey, Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And Brandy notified me earlier in the week that she had a scheduling conflict tonight and wouldn't be here. So we will move on. Our invocation will be by Pastor Barry, and the pledge will be led by Councilman Glover. If you'll please stand.
Let us bow our heads in prayer, please. God in heaven, tonight we gather together to conduct the business of our city. Be with us and our council members as they make decisions on our behalf. Guide them in this endeavor. We pray for our city staff as they do the daily routines that they have been hired to do. Protect our police force, strengthen them in their positions. Pour your mercy and your grace out on the residents of who live in Park City and those who are in our midst. Father, remind our council members and staff that the task that they have is one of honor and trust with every resident here in Park City. Remind them of your wisdom and that they have access to it with prayer. Lord, may we seek your mercy and your grace on a daily basis. In the name of Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, we'll start with approval of the agenda, and Sean has an addition to the agenda.
Yes, sir. If we could add item number 11. It will be discuss and consider a resolution authorizing the sale and conveyance of certain property to Murdoch Properties LLC. It's a retirement of an IRB.
Thank you, Sean. Jim.
I move to approve the agenda with the addition of item 11.
Thank you. Ben?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Jim, seconded by Ben. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, next for awards and presentations. So, Ms. Julie Mills, if you'll come forward. So I want to introduce to the council and to staff and also to the community, Ms. Julie Mills. She has been hired by the library board to be our new library director. She comes to us with great experience. She has a master's degree in library science from Emporia State University. And she has prior library experience with Butler Community College, Manhattan Public Library, and the Goddard Public Library. So I want to welcome her to the community and turn it over to you. You can do a 20-minute speech, or you can do a 2-minute.
Today was officially my second day, so you'll get the 1-minute speech. No, I'm really glad to be here. I'm excited to work on building relationships with the city and the community, and everybody's been wonderful, welcoming, and very great to work with so far. Yeah.
Great. Well, we very much warm welcome to you. And
Thank you.
Look forward to working together with you and your staff.
Thank you. Me too. All right.
Anybody have any questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you for coming tonight. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we have the sign-up sheet for public forum. And nobody has signed up for public forum tonight. So we'll move on to staff reports. Oh. You can- yeah. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a few things that I'd like to update you on that we're doing at Public Works. So the 2023 sidewalk improvements have been completed. If you haven't had a chance to look, both in front of City Hall on 61st Street to Hydraulic and along Grove through Prairie Wind Park. Prado Construction did a great job. They completed the construction for a final approximate cost of $120,000. And I would encourage you to take a look at it. They did a wonderful job. I think we're very pleased with the work. Design work is also being completed for our next phase of sidewalks for the 2024 sidewalk improvement plan. That will come back to you. That is proposed to be the portion along Hydraulic, connecting 61st Street to Prairie Hills 4th Edition, and also that future Park Center development. In our water meter replacement program, as of Monday, a total of 1,866 meters were attempted to be installed. Out of that, 1,469 were successfully installed, with 397 still requiring some type of action by city staff. And so what that action might look like would be vacuuming out the pit, replacing the angle stop, repairing a leak, breaking loose a valve, and other similar tasks. And so what Schulte will do is they will go out, they will attempt to install. We have a live Google Doc. If they're not able to, they make a comment on the document. And then as staff, we can kind of work through all of those for them to come back and do an install at a later date. To date, we've been able to complete 47 of the 397 action items needed. And March was the first month that staff was able to do a drive around of the city. We borrowed some equipment from Schulte, used an iPad, and attached an antenna to our truck, and we were able to drive around the city collecting reads on those approximately 1,500 meters that are in the ground working. Some areas were more easily acquired than others, depending on the location. Some required a direct drive by the meter, and other areas picked up from quite a distance. For example, in the Horseshoe, we did have to drive every street, often having to get right next to the meter to grab that read. But when we were driving through Bear Hill Estates, we actually collected all the reads for the Saddlebrook edition over off of Broadway. And so just depending on where we're at is determining how far of a distance we're able to capture those reads. And so in some areas, we were able to collect several hundred reads within a 30-minute period of time. The whole task took less than an 8-hour workday. And we will continue to do the same driving process as more and more meters are in the ground until we eventually switch over to the tower method, which will utilize signals from 3 strategic locations, which will then get us to that push of a button mode that we've been talking about, as opposed to the drive around and collect. So it's pretty exciting in the meter world. The Park City Center median sign, work began on the median sign last week when Public Works crews removed 4 inches of dirt and rock in those areas that we talked about turfing. It was then replaced back with 3 inches of washed rock, which will act as a base for that turf system. Forever Lawn started today working to compact the rock and also installing the perimeter system for the secure attachment of turf. And tomorrow they'll end up stretching and installing the turf. So just a pretty quick 2-day project for Forever Lawn on that part. Meanwhile, Hearthstone is almost done with the off-site repairs to our Park City sign that was damaged earlier in the year. They did fix the base structure several weeks ago, and they're doing some finishing touches before powder coating that sign and reinstalling it out there in the median. So here at Public Works, we know that April showers bring more than just May flowers. One of our most commonly submitted concerns or complaints during the warm months is to report tall grass or weeds. And our staff spends a great deal of time weed eating and mowing city facilities, parks, drainage ditches, and occasionally right-of-way or along frontage roads. So much so that we staff 2 seasonal positions to help take on that workload. Park City's proximity to multiple jurisdictions with varying approaches for responsibilities can make determining maintenance difficult and result in unsightly areas or inconsistencies. For example, if you were to start at 61st Street on the west end of town near Seneca, you would change ownership from Valley Center to Wichita to Park City to Sedgwick County and then back to Park City. If you go a little further to the interstate, that would be KDOT maintenance. And if you continue east out of town, you'll encounter Keachai Township, Sedgwick County, and the city of Keachai. So there are a lot of different players involved in some of our corridors. Staff's always open to suggestions on creating improvements or efficiencies within service to the community. And one such suggestion was to create a beautification corridor outlining the level of expectation to be accomplished by either a contractor or by Park City crews. Beautification corridors would be priority areas as determined by the governing body with input from staff to be highly visible areas which may reflect poorly upon the city or could pose safety issues without proper maintenance. Just to give you an idea of where we're currently sitting at right now with staffing, Public Works has 4 permanent vacancies still, and we have just opened up those 2 seasonal vacancies, looking to fill those positions. We do estimate that it would require another 1 to 2 additional permanent staff positions to implement a beautification corridor within Park City. These would be in addition to the 6 vacancies and could require some additional equipment as the zero-turn mowers and weed eaters get utilized for our other vegetation control efforts. The tractor and mowing attachment could easily be shared across the existing uses and a possible new use with the beautification corridor, but would be limited to areas as the weight would damage sidewalks and possibly other utilities. The other way to discuss maintaining control of the corridors would be to contract services similar to the city of Wichita. Wichita does contract for their drainage way mowing at approximately $100 per acre once per month with 7 mowings in the season. So it's approximately a $60,000 contract. And I do think they are largely able to see a good cost on that based on the size alone. Park City has had some issues in the past getting mowing vendors to respond to requests for bids when it comes to our abatement mowing and other type services. I saw recently Valley Center's having the same issue, and so it is a struggle that some of us with smaller contracted areas may face. Staff will continue to research possible solutions for mowing and the feasibility of a beautification corridor. However, at this time, staffing levels make it prohibitive. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is the annexation of roads. Sedgwick County Public Works had approached us last month to discuss the annexation of roads by Park City in the unincorporated road rights-of-ways. Sedgwick County determined that there were 16 locations where annexation likely should have occurred when there was land annexation done by Park City. Of the 16 locations, the county prioritized roughly half of those areas, which totaled 2.7 miles. Park City staff is currently working through negotiations based on several factors, such as the street condition, the location, adjacent jurisdictions, and future growth and development areas. And just as I described with the beautification corridor, the proposed locations have shared boundaries with Wichita, Valley Center, Keachai, or a township. And so in some of these areas, it may not be intuitive as to who is responsible for a stretch of roadway. The county's not looking for a half-road annexation or a half-street annexation. They're preferring whichever entity takes the full width. And so we are working to set up meetings with multiple jurisdictions as our next steps to meet with the various cities to find solutions or compromises before we respond to the county. We did pretty quickly agree that Broadway for a half mile south, starting at 101st Street North, made sense to annex in, and that 53rd Street, just west of Hydraulic to a point just a quarter mile east of Hydraulic, made sense to go ahead and annex in. And so some of the other areas, we have talked about what a strategy might look like, swapping one mile for another when it comes to Wichita, Valley Center, Keachai, any of those players. And with that, I stand for any questions you may have.
I just have a quick question on the road stuff. So if we annex these, are they going to be in the current condition, or or if there's one that's very poor surface, are they going to resurface before we annex?
That's something that we're discussing in our negotiations. And so a good example would be Hillside. Hillside is currently in the Keachai Township. It is in very poor condition. We would not likely annex that without first asking the county or the township to put some maintenance investment into that mile before we would take it on.
Agreed. Thank you. Ben?
Yeah, on the beautification corridor piece, I know you talked about not having the staffing right now at this point, but would some of it still be, you talked about like along 61st or 53rd, 61st, whichever, 61st. You talked about one of the streets where it just changes jurisdictions even between things like that. So even a beautification corridor would still run into some similar issues if you have a plan, for instance, that, let's just say, is it 53rd that you were talking about?
61st,
53rd
where it
Street?
switches
Okay.
over so many times, yeah.
Okay, yeah, 61st Street, where you have Park City, then you have county, and you have, even if you establish that as a beautification, you'd still have areas of inconsistency, correct?
There would have to be coordination that occurred. 61st Street, for example, is one of those areas that the county had asked us to look at annexing.
Okay.
And so we might resolve some of that just through the natural conversation of annexing the roadway. In other areas, it could just be a simple agreement. The county maintains all of their right-of-way in the unincorporated area where most cities don't. Most cities ask that the property owners maintain their right-of-way. And so it would just be a conversation that would need to happen with anybody involved.
Perfect. And then this question really is not too necessarily, but when anticipation on the sign being put back, you said was in the median over here. When did you think that was?
Probably next week.
Okay, so I'll tell you, my little guy is, like, this is an adventure for him. Every time we get off 135, he's trying to figure out who stole the sign.
Oh, no?
So he'll be excited to see it back next week.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you who he decided stole it and put it back when I find out, so.
Thank you, Ben. Charles?
At the SCAP meeting, the Public Works Director for the Sedgwick County was talking about this program, and he did more or less make a promise that any road that they would basically allow the other city to adopt or annex, I guess you'd say, would be in good shape, something that would last up for 10 years. And I hope he's sticking with that promise, because I think that should also go with any road that, like, say, Bel Air gave to us or Keachai gave to us. You know, it should have a 10-year top on it, you know, I would think, before they transferred that, or we'd want to accept it anyway. You know, I 45th Street from Hydraulic East, you don't want that one. I can tell you that base is gone in that one. That's going to take a major deal. I don't know how that's divided right now. And
That did actually make the list, and I think that's a conversation between us or Wichita, as is 61st Street. And so, you know, where it may make more sense to have, you know, one city take all of 61st and the other take all of 45th, rather than trying to break up little bits and pieces that each one actually has surrounding their boundaries.
And on the beautification project, you probably know I'm a pusher of that project, and getting the employees lined up so that we can do the whole thing is a tough deal. I know that, you know, and I hope that we can get it done, you know. And in the meanwhile, I just hope that we can do the best we can, you know, and keep at least the entryways and there's some, I know that there's that ordinance back in 1994 that says the landowner will take care of the street and the weeds to the center of the road on their side, you know. But that works in some cases. It does not work in other cases, you know. There's absentee owners, there's owners that are seniors that don't have the equipment, you know, and all kinds of reasons why it doesn't work 100%, you know. And those are some of the ones that I would like the city. I know that it takes an arm and a leg to get a billing through for them, you know, a notice, 60 days and all that kind of stuff. I'm really not interested in as much in getting a billing through as we are just getting, you know, the at least 10 foot of weeds mowed so that it looks presentable, you know. And if we get paid, that's fine. If we don't, I think that's fine too. It's more important to get the weeds mowed than it is to get the money collected, is what I'm saying.
I agree, and I think 53rd Street's a great example where we do have different ownerships and different mowing schedules. And so, you know, KDOT, they tell us, be happy if you see us out there twice a year. The county, they like to make 3 to 4 passes on their stuff. Then you have a private property owner who, you know, I don't know what their mowing schedule's like. Then you have commercial businesses, industrial businesses that are doing a great job. And so, yeah, I think the goal would be to have some consistency going through the corridor so that it all looks uniform.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Charlie?
Just a quick question on the meters. I believe you said when we were getting these meters, there was going to be the option for citizens to go online and monitor. Is that active yet, or is that live yet? No. It's not yet, okay. I was just checking. Thanks. Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Troy?
I just wanted to kind of put things in perspective as far as the meters were concerned. Before these new meters were installed, how long did it take to read that amount of those meters?
So a great person on a great day might be able to read 200 meters in an 8-hour shift. And we were able to do it in like 30 minutes driving around in a vehicle.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's my call out for that one.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Thank you. Any other questions for Gina? Charles?
One more question. You said that some of the meters weren't sending a signal strong enough that you actually had to get next to the curb. Are they going to have any trouble hitting the towers?
They shouldn't. So there's 2 different crews working. There's the meter crew and there's the lid crew. The lid crew are the guys that are going through, drilling through the meter lids and attaching the antennas. So the lid guys are a lot quicker than the meter guys. They only come out once every 4 weeks. And so right now what we have are a lot of meters that have been installed with antennas sitting in the pit as opposed to being attached to the lid. And that's where we saw some of our signal issues with this drive around.
All right, thank you.
So I've had a few comments from a resident on the lid being left off the meter frequently.
Okay?
So this will probably alleviate a lot of that too, because they don't need to come off then, right?
Yeah, they shouldn't have to come off unless we're doing something different or unusual, and checking to make sure the high usage is really high usage, or turning it off for any reason.
Great. Very good, thank you. All right, Sean?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Well, seeing how Gina brought you up to speed on the vast majority of the infrastructure projects, I only have 2 to 3 to update tonight. First of all is the results from our recent swimming pool survey. As you know, a survey was published on both the city's website as well as our Facebook page for the first half of March, asking residents to weigh in on the size and the amenities that they most desired in a swimming pool if it were to be built. The survey ran for nearly 3 weeks, and as I sent you all in an earlier email, we had a total of 501 participants, which far exceeds the best survey turnout that the city has had in recent history. The next steps include combing through the responses, summarizing the key takeaways, and then they'll come back and make a more formal presentation to the council in April with recommendations going forward. Secondly is the community building in Hat McLean Park. Council approved renovations a couple months ago, and since then, the contractor was able to carve out a 2 to 3 week time period in early February for, as well as the first part of this month, where the building wasn't reserved. And in that time, they were able to remove the old paneling inside, level the floors, scrape the popcorn ceiling, install some new lighting. but then they had to button it back up for some scheduled reservations. That was for the last half of this month, but then they start back up on Monday, April 1st, and they'll have it until its completion, which should be right around May 1st. It's going to have a complete new look on the inside. And then finally, I updated you on the Jacksonville intersection a couple weeks ago, indicating that engineers were working on a plan or design to replace the entire intersection, and that proposal should be coming to you at our next meeting. The reason why I'm bringing it up at this time is being part of the challenge of that project would be figuring out how to manage the traffic flow during what could be 3, if not 4 or 5 stages of replacing the intersection. So many discussions have been held on it, and one of it was, what about possible detours? It appears that the most logical detour right now would be to connect Beaumont Drive with Hatton Drive. I don't know if you're all familiar, but there's about an 8-foot gap between the end of Beaumont Drive and Hatton Drive, and it's been that way since it was put in back in 1997. So today I reached out to the principal at Chisholm Trail Elementary School and wanted to make certain that the school, what their concerns were. Because there is a fence around the adjacent school property right off of Beaumont, the principal thought it was a great idea and didn't have safety concerns at the time. Plus also looking at this, more than likely the scheduled or proposed improvements would be more than likely completed over the summer months when kids wouldn't be there. So we do plan on it right now, making that connection, filling in the 8 feet of grass area with pavement to connect those 2 drives. And then after the construction, we can bring it back to council to make a determination whether we leave it that way or just go back to the way it was. But pending any questions, Mayor, that's all I have tonight.
Troy?
The store manager at Quick Trip, he'd reached out to me, and he'd voiced his concerns and their suggestions as far as when to do it. And obviously, they don't want to do it during their peak times, and I know we're constrained on time and when everybody can do it, but I know as Quick Trip has mentioned a few times that they would prefer.
So we reached out to every one of the businesses, and this one would be a little bit more extensive. Like I said, it would probably be about 3 to 5 phases of the project, trying to figure out how to maintain one, or at least one-way traffic, or if not two-way traffic throughout the whole entire process. Probably the most difficult store would be Subway, because there's only one entrance into Subway, whereas Quick Trip has 2 entrances. Like I said, using Hatton Drive and Beaumont Drive makes a logical detour, 1 block to the south, 1 to the east, 1 to the north, and you're back around. So even if somebody has to make that loop to get heading back to the west to either get to Subway or Quick Trip, makes a lot more sense than trying to take a detour to the north where you're trying to take people throughout the horseshoe. So that's what we're looking at.
Thank you. Okay, next is a consent agenda. Charlie?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Jim Schroeder.
I'd second that.
Okay, motion by Charlie, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next, we're on to new business. Discuss and consider property casualty and workers' compensation insurance renewal. Marlo.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The city's insurance policies will expire on April 1st, 2024. The city requested our insurance broker bid the city's insurance this year. Applications were sent to 4 insurance companies: Travelers, Continental Western, Chubb, and EMC. Of the 4, we received 1 proposal from Employers Mutual Casualty Companies, EMC, for $239,753. Travelers declined our application due to their wind and hail terms being more than EMC, and their property rates would be considerably higher. Continental Western Group declined our application due to being over capacity. Chubb only accepts accounts with annual premiums above $250,000. EMC's quote for the upcoming year was reduced by 1.75% due to EMC's mandated increase to the wind and hail deductible on the property, increasing from $5,000 to $50,000. The city customarily receives an annual dividend from the EMC each year in June. The average dividend paid to the city for the last 3 years has been $29,900. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Marlo. Ben?
Yeah, so on this, just from the insurance world, insurance perspective, the actual broker doesn't make a lot of difference on who that is. It's the companies, obviously. So if we were to suggest asking a different person to bid this out, it really doesn't make a big difference because it's the brokerage firms that deal with the specialty items. Something like this, it's not your traditional home and auto and things where you can go to Farmers or American or wherever, and you go to different people to get the quotes. This is all brokers. So this is really going to be the best quotes we're going to get, and asking somebody else to bid it out is not going to be any different because they're going to go to the same exact people because those are the ones that specialize in it. So I would make a motion to approve the proposal from the Employers Mutual Casualty Company, EMC, for $239,753 effective April 1st, 2024.
Charlie?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on this item? The experts want to speak up? No? Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Call me an expert?
You didn't talk when I said any experts. Okay, on to item 5, consider annual review of water and sewer rates. Marlo?
Sections 15-224E and 15-419C of the City of Park City Municipal Code state that the governing body shall conduct an annual review of the financial condition of the city's water and sewer utilities, respectively, on or before March 31st each year, to evaluate the need for any adjustments to the current water and sewer charges. Water and sewer rate increases were approved in April 2022 and became effective on the June 2022 utility bills. The rate increase was based on the results of the Wilson and Company rate study for the water and sewer departments, in conjunction with a comprehensive system evaluation of the city's water and wastewater systems. Separate of the water and sewer rates, council recently approved the new stormwater rates, and those will go into effect on the April 2024 utility bills. Given both of these recent adjustments, staff is not recommending any adjustment or increase in the water and sewer rates at this time.
Everybody push it at once. Ben?
Yeah, I heard all those clickings going off over here. That was was it 22 or 23 when we raised the rates?
22.
Okay, I thought we did last year too. Okay, good. Well, yeah, this is, anytime we don't have to raise rates, that's a good thing. But with all the clickings going on, well, they're all off. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to approve no increase in the water and sewer charges at this time.
Thank you, Ben. Terry?
Second.
Okay. Guess nobody's wanting to debate that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 6, we receive refresher on current budget law and discuss and consider and approve budget calendar. Welcome, Dee.
Good evening. I need to apologize because somehow, I don't know how I did it, but I have got two R&R examples in your packet. One of them is from several years ago, so I have no idea. They're in two different folders. I don't know how I got it out there, but ignore the old one. Just the new one would be the current information. Sean and I felt a refresher of the revenue neutral rate law is in order yet again, since it's a bit complicated and hasn't been in the forefront of our minds since the budget process. And we also have two new council members that might like to hear it. It is the same presentation I've given the last few years, so those of you who have it etched in your brain can take a little nap while I go through this. This law became effective a few years ago for the 2022 budget, created a new budget timeline, and implemented a revenue neutral rate, which is referred to as the R&R. The R&R is a mill levy computed using the June 15th estimated assessed valuation that exactly equals the amount of the ad valorem taxes levied in the previous year. In other words, if a city does not go through the process to exceed the revenue neutral rate, you will be levying the exact same property tax dollars, not mills, but dollars, as you did in the previous year. There's no increase allowed in the R&R formula for such things as expiration of property tax abatements, which for us would be IRB properties going back onto the tax roll, or for new improvements, remodeling, or renovations. So unless we go through the process outlined in the law to exceed R&R, we must use the R&Rs or estimated mill levy, which provides us with the exact same dollars as last year. The R&R is provided to entities each year by the county clerk along with the June 15th budget estimates. Entities that do plan to exceed the R&R must inform the county clerk by July 20th of the amount of ad valorem tax to be levied in terms of mills, and subsequently publish a notice, hold a tax rate hearing, and approve a resolution to exceed the R&R prior to holding the budget hearing and adoption. On the budget calendar in your packet, there's a red dotted line across the page. That's the point that you must have a decision made regarding whether you're going to levy the R&R, and if not, then the amount that you are levying. Sean and I are again recommending that we always plan to exceed the R&R. In the time I worked here, except for this year's budget when it was reduced half a mil, council has held the mill levy at the same level, and it provided us more tax dollars due to growth in our community, which then allowed us to do more. However, if we were to stay with the R&R, we would actually be forced to do less due to inflation, and with the current level of inflation, it would probably be a lot less. Sean and I feel Park City needs to be able to capture the dollars related to growth in our community in order to provide the additional funds needed to expand and provide better services. Additionally, the State of Kansas Municipal Services Division has strongly advised that all cities always hold the tax rate hearing, go through the same process that you would if you intended to exceed the R&R. The reason is that the new law does not even allow for the final valuation calculated in November after everyone has argued their taxes to bump that final mill levy above the R&R. If it does bump over that, even just 0.001, that's 1/1000th of 1 mil, then those additional taxes must be refunded to all taxpayers, with the city paying the cost for the county to do that. And I don't know if those of you who were here last year remembers, I did a quick calculation of what that refund amount would be on 1/1000th of a mil. And what I used is the number of utility customers we have, because I don't know how many properties we have, but my number is a little higher because we have more properties than we have utility customers. So my calculation was that it would be less than 4 cents reimbursement on average to those property owners for that. So you add in a 64-cent stamp, you add in an envelope and some paper and the county's labor to do the work. You spend a lot of money for sending 4-cent checks. The revenue neutral rate example page I provided you is an example of the city budgeting to the levy the exact same dollars as last year. In other words, the city was attempting to levy the R&R, but once the county determined the final assessed value, it had decreased by $2,000. The final mill levy was increased 0.001 mils. Therefore, it would require refunds to our taxpayers. The county clerk notifies taxpayers via mail or email of all the taxing subdivisions that are planning to exceed the R&R. The state paid the cost of the notifications sent out in 2022 and 2023. Beginning with the current year, the cost shall be shared proportionally by the taxing entities that plan to exceed the R&R based on the amount of property taxes levied by each of those entities. The City of Park City's share of the cost of this year's notification related to the 2025 budget was estimated by the county at $1,307. As you're aware, the state gets to continue to levy their 1.5 mils without following this law. Your agenda packets include a copy of the proposed 2025 budget calendar, and the dates have been set to comply with the required submission timeframes. In addition to the regular council meeting dates, we're proposing 3 special city council meetings, the same number we had last year. The special meetings are budget work sessions scheduled at 6 p.m. on June 18th, July 9th, and July 23rd, and dinner will be provided at each of those. The department heads will be in attendance on June 18th to discuss their budgets and respond to your questions, similar to the format of the past few years. If a city is not planning to exceed the R&R and does not want to hold a tax rate hearing anyway, as the state has recommended, then the same time frames apply that we had in the past prior to the R&R, with an August 25th deadline for submission to the county. The land bank falls into that category because there is no related mill levy with the land bank, and so there isn't a revenue neutral rate to exceed. The land bank budget and hearing and adoption is proposed to be held during the August 13th regular city council meeting at 7:00 p.m. For the regular budget, if we plan to exceed the revenue neutral rate, there's a different required timeline that has an October 1st deadline for submission to the county. Staff recommends approval of the budget calendar.
Thank you, Dee. Ben?
Yeah. This is my favorite one to chime in on. Just so, I know you mentioned this, but I just want to repeat. The state administers a 1.5 mil tax rate on our property taxes.
Correct.
And with that 1.5 mil, they have exempted themselves, removed themselves from any accountability to the R&R. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So they're going to force us to play ball while they don't want to.
Correct.
I just want that reiterated again on the record that the state maybe should figure out how to govern themselves before they come down here and try to micromanage us. That's just my feeling on the matter, and I've told them that multiple times. I would agree that there's work that we need to do, and I appreciate that last year we did take a little bit of a step in reducing our mill levy. And I think there's still a lot of work to do on that because, again, we are at capturing additional sales tax revenue now, or will begin. I guess we haven't yet, but we'll begin to. And that's an issue that's facing many people. Again, a lot of our seniors in town face the issue of capped revenue and growing expenses. So I look forward to having that conversation this year, hopefully, again, going through and reducing our mill levy. But this isn't about reducing mill levies. This is about revenue. And so from a state perspective, I would ask that if the desire is to help keep tax rates in check going down there, that we have that conversation and not the revenue, because that's not truly representative of the costs that go into functioning, especially as we come online in '25 with Golden Circle and other pieces like that. We're providing key services. And whether it's making sure our infrastructure is taken care of, or our officers are given the equipment needed, or we're able to staff officers, this is a public safety piece too. And unless they want to tell us to start cutting public safety, which would be an end result of something like this, I figure we need a better approach. So that's my rant.
Jim?
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that, but I understand it. It makes sense. We got a process to work through here, so I would move to approve the 2025 budget calendar.
Thank you. Troy?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
On to item 7, discuss and consider a resolution fixing a time and place for a hearing to determine whether the structure at 5258 Valentine Road should be condemned and ordered repaired or demolished. Doug?
Mayor and council, you've seen this before, and it's back here on a do-over because I made a mistake in the setting of the date for the public hearing. I had the date right, but I had the year wrong, so we have to start over. So I would request that you adopt the resolution. One possible ray of sunshine from all this is that we did send that notice out to the owner, and one of the owner's family has been in contact with the building inspection department. So there is at least some possibility that there will be some action on this short of demolition, but we never know. So we're going to go forward with the public hearing now set for May 14th.
Thank you, Doug. Ben?
Yeah, thank you very much, Doug, on this. I will say that, not related to the specific one, but we had the one on Fairchild that came up recently, and That one's right around the corner from me, and through that process, the house is actually starting to look quite good. And so maybe that little prodding lightning will strike twice on this one. So I'd make a motion to approve Resolution 1201-2024, resolution fixing a time and place for a hearing where the owner or lien holder of record or any occupant of the structure located at 5258 Valentine Road in Park City, Kansas may appear and show cause why such structure should not be condemned or ordered, repaired, or demolished.
With the hearing on May 14th, 7 PM.
Yes.
Thank you, Ben. Jim?
I'd second that.
Okay. See no further comments. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 8, discuss and consider a resolution authorizing the Grove Street Lift Station project. Sean?
Yes, sir. Charter Ordinance 39, 2019 provides the city may file with the governing body a multi-year capital improvement plan, CIP, for the development of city, including public improvements, acquisition of necessary land, acquisition of equipment, vehicles, and any other personal property to be used. In May of 2021, the council approved such a resolution, 1069-21, authorizing and providing payment for cost of certain improvements within the CIP. Upon approval of the CIP, the city is authorized to issue general obligation bonds in an amount sufficient to carry out such plans and associated costs. This resolution here before you tonight will serve as the initial authorization for improvements to the Grove Street Lift Station with an estimated cost of $473,000. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Jim?
I think it's great we keep moving along on these projects and getting them improved. So I would move to approve Resolution 1200-2024, a resolution amending and supplementing Resolutions 1069-2021 and 1081-2021.
Thank you, Jim. George?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any further comments on that? All right, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. On item 9, discuss and consider a brokerage agreement with IMA Financial Group for health insurance and employee benefits.
The city has had an established relationship with our current health insurance employee benefits broker for 30-plus years. But due to recent changes in cost and plans, council assigned a committee to look at options, whether to remain, quote, fully insured or explore going forward with partial self-insured coverage. Prior to looking at any coverage related to the options, the committee first needed to decide whether to remain with our current broker or go with a different provider. The committee interviewed representatives from two firms, Gallagher and IMA. Gallagher is our current provider. Also discussed was whether or not it would be appropriate to advertise a request for proposal for brokerage service, but decided in the end that it was not necessary. Ultimately, the committee made their recommendations on the presented or outlined approach for services going forward over the next 2 to 3 years. Attached is a brokerage agreement with IMA Financial Services, outlining them taking over responsibility for the city's health insurance and employee benefits starting May 1st. The city's current brokerage agreement requires a 30-day notice. The agreement outlines brokerage services be done on a flat fee basis of $25,000 per year, whereas the current brokerage agreement is based on a 3% commission. It is budgeted and staff recommends approval. And if there are any questions related to the agreement, we have Christy Powell with IMA. She is here in the audience tonight.
Thank you, Sean. Ben?
So as the insurance expert. Just kidding. No, I appreciate the group getting together on this. IMA is a phenomenal organization, local company, I think great to partner with. So I'd move to approve and authorize the mayor to finalize and execute a brokerage agreement with IMA Financial Services.
Jim?
Christie drove out here to answer questions, but I don't have any as well, so I would second that.
Thank you. Any other discussion on that? All right, motion by Ben, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. On to item 10, discuss and consider approving longevity pay. Sean?
Yes, sir. In a continuing effort to help attract and retain our valued employees, staff is recommending approval of longevity pay to acknowledge the dedication and expertise our current employees and to convey to both new or potential employees that Park City does value experience and loyalty. The proposed plan would pay each employee an annual check somewhere in the December time period of $5 per month for every month that they've worked in Park City. And an employee who has worked for the city for 1 year would receive a $60 check, which is the same amount as the city's current holiday check. The employee who has worked 5 years would get a $300 check, and an employee that has worked 20-plus years would get $1,200. The proposal that I am putting forth tops out at 20 years, and this would be in replacement of the $60 holiday bonus each employee currently receives. Given the current lineup we have of employees, this proposal would cost an additional $16,605 for 2024, and it would be paid out of each department's salary budget. So it is therefore not budgeted, but it is within the budget allowance for salaries under each department.
Okay. Ben?
I do have one question here.
Yes, sir.
So currently, let's say I start in July
Yes, sir.
and December comes around, I get a $60 check. Is that correct currently?
That would not be correct.
Okay.
In the policy that well, right now?
Yes, yeah, like without this policy going in.
Without this policy right now, yes.
Okay, so,
It doesn't matter if you started 2 days ago and you're there. Usually we give out the $60 bonus checks during the holiday party. So if you're here a day, you're getting a $60 check. Under the proposed policy, the way it was drafted up, the recommendation was to make certain that somebody is beyond their probationary period, which is 6 months.
I know we're talking $60 here, so it's not large. But currently with our incentives that we do offer for employees, we don't currently have any type of probationary period waiting before we pay those out, do we? Such as officers, code enforcement, or anything like that?
Well, actually, with our current incentive policy, we only pay the first half right up front. And then other than that, we wait until after the probationary period.
Okay, so we do pay part of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I guess my thought would be is offering something for those employees in that first little bit, because again, if I start in January, for instance, or February, and you're there and you're just
You
like.
start in January, then you would be there 11 months and you'd be getting a $55 check.
So you do get something if you're under a year?
Yes.
Okay,
as long as
sorry,
you're
I
out-
missed
as-
that.
As long as you're 6 months or more, basically. If somebody
Okay.
started 6 months before December 1st, so in other words, June 1st, anybody
Okay.
who starts prior to June 1st
Okay,
is going to get
sorry,
something in December. It's only if you start after June 1st that they would wait until the following year before
Okay,
they receive their first longevity check.
okay, perfect. I guess I just didn't see that being prior to the first year on there, so
No, sir,
But-
it's after the 6-month probationary period.
I'm happy now.
Okay?
And it maxes out at the 20-year mark.
And it maxes out at 20 years, which would be $1,200. And currently, we have I believe, three employees that have more than 20 years' worth of service to the city.
Great. Jim?
As an employee on my day job that's worked there 18 years, I think this is I like this idea. This is pretty slick. I like how it rewards longevity. Obviously, if they're on the job that long, they've been doing a good job, so it rewards them. Just curious where the idea came from and if this is a somewhat standard policy. I mean, does this put us ahead maybe of what some other cities offer, or is this keeping up?
I would not say it's standard, because I don't know of that many cities around Sedgwick County that pay longevity pay. The very first city that I worked in used to have longevity pay. With that particular pilot program, they offered different levels of longevity, and the longer that you were there, they just got bigger and bigger. So recommended improvements or changes in that policy was to make it consistent across the board. Because as a city administrator, I value somebody who's going from year 2 to 3 with an organization just as much as I value an employee that's going from year 12 to 13. So this is a very consistent policy across the board, $5 per month. A good example of somebody local that does this is the Kansas Highway Patrol. They do it. I believe that they do it at $40 a year. And I'm not certain if it tops that or not, but as we were looking for the benchmarking of best policies around, and that's the thing, I will give it to our whole entire staff. That's the chief of police, that's Dana, that's Marlo, that's Dee, that's everybody that is sitting there trying to figure out. We already know what the current employee outlook is of trying to hire and retain and attract valued employees. It's difficult. So I'm not saying that we're grasping at all straws, but this does recognize those employees that have dedicated service, that have stuck through us during the hard times as well as the good times. So.
And actually, it's not just the patrol, but the entire state of Kansas. They do that for state employees.
Really?
Yeah. It's a little bit different than this, but it's very similar, yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Jim. Troy?
I think anything we can do, especially these retention bonuses, are awesome. I wish more places would do this. My wife works for the state. She gets something very similar to this. Wish my company would do it. That'd be great. But it's a good deal. Great work on this. If nobody else has anything, I'd make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Ben?
Second.
All right, seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And item 11, resolution authorizing, I'll let you guys call it out, Sean, I guess. I
Yes,
didn't-
sir.
My notes.
Resolution authorizing the sale and conveyance of certain property to Murdoch Properties LLC. Back in July of 2012, council approved ordinance number 917-12, authorizing the issuance of taxable revenue bonds to Murdoch Properties LLC for the purpose of paying the cost of acquisition, construction, and equipping of commercial facilities. Attached is both a letter of intent and a resolution 1202-2024 that indicate Murdoch Properties is electing to exercise the option to purchase the project as described in the lease between the city and the properties, as authorized in the original ordinance. The closing is proposed to be as soon as possible. There's no physical or fiscal impact to the city, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Sean. Ben, is
Yeah, I'd recommend approval.
that a motion?
Yeah, I'd motion for approval. And I recommend it.
Thank you. Jim?
Second.
Okay, I have motion by Ben, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, we're on to governing body remarks. Charlie?
I don't think I have anything tonight.
George?
Yeah, I'd like to welcome Julie Mills as our new librarian here in Park City. Welcome to Park City. The LEAP program here in the state of Kansas, that ends this Friday. For those folks who may need help for gas and or electric, you can go to the DCF website and look into that with criteria and whatnot that needs to be met. Also, our annual Easter egg hunt is this Saturday at Hat McLean Park, starting at 10 o'clock. So we'd like all the Easter bunnies to show up out there and have a good time. Thank you.
Ben?
Yeah, I just want to wish everyone a happy and blessed Easter on Sunday, and looking forward to tackling some of the issues ahead as we get into the summer with all the buzz going on about things happening up here in Park City, so.
Agreed. Charles?
None.
Nothing for me tonight.
Troy?
All I can say is I'm excited for Saturday for the Easter egg hunt. This will be my first time with the two grandbabies going up there, so we're excited about that. Also, High Ridge is doing a pickleball tournament April 4th. If you live in the area, check it out. That's all I got.
Thank you. Jim?
Planning way ahead here, I had the Community Relations Board reach out to me about our parade float at the 4th of July event. So start giving that some thought if you want to be on it. I've got the entry form. I'm sure I'll get the float together and be doing it again. That's my plan. So just let me know. I have not responded to them yet, but they asked me, I wanted to convey it on. I don't know if we need signs for Terry and Troy and that kind of thing, but
Last year.
Got them.
we got them already. Good deal. That's all I have.
Very good. On the Easter egg hunt, I would say don't be late getting there, or don't be on time, because you'll have very disappointed kids, because it usually starts early.
If you're on time, you're late.
That's right. So with that, I would entertain a non-debatable motion to adjourn. And Ben,
So moved.
and Charlie.
Second.
Motion by Ben, seconded by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0.